when the Cold War ended, we used to have a bipolar world. Then it was unipolar, in many ways led by the United States. And you always knew where you would have the US. Now, when you go into trade wars, when you say no to immigration, when you put America first, when you pull out of climate agreements, when you say no to multilateralism, and you're sort of lukewarm to NATO, I think it's fair to say that perhaps US leadership is a little bit different from what it used to be.
I can see some of the negativity and how it's spilled across to European economies and how European politicians have had to stand up and fight back against the trade war. What we have seen across Europe has been a very weak economy in 2019. There's some hopes of an improvement in 2020 as long as there isn't another trade fight, and particularly one directed against Europe. Do you have some concerns that Europe will be in focus for President Trump in an election year?
Well, I really want to look at it from a longer-term perspective. I was Prime Minister, Finance Minister during the Euro crisis and the migration crisis, and that's when we really felt the pressure. When we look at it from a financial perspective, economic perspective, actually Europe is quite solid at the moment. Will the US election have a ramification on the European economy, global politics in general? The answer would have to be yes. It always does, because US is after all, the undisputed superpower of the world. So whoever is president in the United States will have an impact.
How can you say Europe looks solid when we've got negative interest rates into perpetuity at this point and very sluggish growth, no sign of inflation hitting its targets at any time soon? Talk about long-term stories. Europe may go into the next financial crisis having never got out of the last one.
Well, I think economic performance is actually fairly solid. If you look at employment rates, they're the highest ever in the European Union. We've never had this many people in work at the same time. Yeah, well, actually, unemployment rates are pretty low as well. I'm not saying that the European Union's economy or the Eurozone is bullish, but it is solid. And I think, when you look at modern capitalism in the countries for the past few years, this is what you'll continue to see. Europe and the US are the new Japan.
I want to talk about stakeholder capitalism because the big theme here on the mountain this week has been climate change. And it's not a new issue, let's face it. It's been out there for many, many decades. Yeah. But the E out of the ESG component in the C-suite is starting to catch hold. What are your hopes for this year, and what do you think we need to see from governments to help corporates drive forward the agenda?
Well, I think it's very much a joint venture. It's one of those things that regulation will never be enough. Public money will never be enough. It has to come from the private sector as well. What I want to see is a little bit of cooperation and open dialogue on what can be done. The EU, whether you like it or not, is a regulatory superpower. So when the EU regulates, things happen. What I don't want to see here in Davos, but I'm afraid we will, is sort of this polarization of the debate on climate change. We think it's the fundamental question for a generation and indeed for the future of the planet. But I don't think it's very constructive to have this sort of, Donald Trump on one side, Greta Thunberg on the other side. I think we probably need to find a little bit of middle ground. I'm really happy that Greta is pushing the bucket, and I wish that Trump would follow a little bit.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.